Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. We are three, we are Legion, we are... No, did I get that wrong? Were we not live yet? Should I do that again?
We're
Did
live.
I get that wrong?
Well, as live as we can
we're live
be.
now. Were we not live? I did that. Oh, well. Let's go to the hard-hitting, immediate story that I feel I can waste no seconds getting to. And that is jetpack blokes flying after airliners. I think
yes, it's only a matter of time, isn't it?
We've all seen that, obviously.
Ban them all.
Again, this is another one of those stories that I haven't really bothered trying to go to the root of it. Where, because it's rubbish. Where did an airline pilot really say that, or was that just completely made up?
I've no idea, but it was on approach, and you can always trust an airline pilot. So it was either a man in a jetpack or a shopping bag. We're not sure.
Or pig. Pigs can fly, remember? Don't forget pigs.
And that's one of those things where you could probably, if you had the smarts, you could probably work out where every jetpack on the planet is quite quickly.
Well, there's only one company that sells them, isn't there? There's that one company that basically has made that suit and everything. So I'm sure he's probably only manufactured about 50 in total. So he's not going to be too unsure where they all are.
And it can't have been dangerous because manned aviation has skin in the game, and that makes them totally safe, apparently.
It makes it totally safe. And if it was far enough out on the approach, if it was miles away, he could have been in Class G airspace just flying his jetpack. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's absolutely, and he wouldn't have needed to have electronic conspicuity. He wouldn't have needed to carry a radio. He wouldn't need to be licensed because it would have been an ultralight sized jetpack. There's many things that the jetpack flyer could have done.
Absolutely. It's not like he was flying one of these.
Oh, here we are. Sean was late coming from Lax in his jetpack. So do you go steerage then, Sean? Do you fly up to them, grab on, and then hold on the way across, and then just let go as you get there? Or I mean, it could be cheap hitchhiking travel, couldn't it? Yeah. What a story. And I noticed a couple of them didn't really Richard Browning from Gravity. They didn't really talk up drones in these reported incidents. There wasn't another one of it like he's Gatwick blah blah blah. They didn't talk it up. So anyway, I had to mention that. And the next thing now it's only here, so we'll go for the sage advice from you lot. I've been to a few meetings this week, and one of them, as the moments before the online meeting was going to start, it was nobody joined. He's like nobody joined, and then Louis joined, and it wasn't a meeting with Louis. That was another thing. Like, good day, mate. Oh, he's had a haircut.
Was it like, good evening, my name is Gary, and I have a problem?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we were all in a circle.
That problem might be he cannot fly.
Well, you have identified my nemesis and weakness straight away, but other than that, no. So just before this meeting started, grown-ups, they literally sent an email and said nobody is to join until you've signed the NDA, and it was within 2 or 3 minutes of the start. It's like, what a load of rubbish. And am I the only person that can't stand NDAs and can't stand it when people make you sign them? Because I think if they don't trust you, then we shouldn't. If you don't trust me, then we shouldn't be having any conversation.
Gary, speaking very frankly, I have an NDA signed by you right here with me. I don't know what is your problem. If people don't want to know you to know stuff, you should not know. But
Gary definitely shouldn't know. It's safer for everyone.
Yeah.
I know. NDAs I've signed a lot of them over the years for drone related. Normally, it's with pre-release equipment. To be fair, I can't think if I signed any for live streams. It's normally when something's entering my hand. Do you know what I mean? Something's on its way. But there's standard things, and the reality is you're never going to be taken to court for one, but you'll never get to deal with that company that way again if you were to break one. And I think at the end of the day, I think everyone sort of knows if you're going to be sent a pre-release product that you've got to play the game a little bit and not go shouting and screaming it online. But they're frustrating, but I suppose they're an evil we've got to put up with sometimes.
This isn't for a product. There's no product around the corner. It was a meeting about other things. No, to me, it just makes me think, oh, well, if you don't, and also they makes me think, oh, hang on a minute, there's stuff they've asked me since meeting. They want to ask me about some stuff. Then they obviously perceive that I have something of value to take to that. And that sounds a bit pompous, doesn't it? And it is very pompous. But there's a reason why they're asking me to be there. And they're thinking, well, hang on a minute, why doesn't this work both ways? So that anything I say can't be then taken away and used by them or whatever. You know what I mean? It just gets my hackles up. It's the old bloke in me. If you don't trust me enough, then I'll tell you what. And I nearly blew that meeting out, but I signed it.
I've had a few this. The worst one I get now is the not NDAs, but the media agreements that companies have started to throw of that if they send you something to review, that they want you to send them the video first, or they want to. In fact, I had one last month that said I was not allowed to say any more than 3 negative things. It's fair to say I told them where to shove the product, but that was one, you know. But
positive, depending on your.
That's positive. Sorry, Ian. Shove the product where it is not intended is an unexpected usage of the product. So that's good.
It depends what the product was, but yeah, you know, NDAs I've never had issues with. At the end of the day, if you've got something which isn't in the world yet,
come on, Ian. You really like to get the shiny things, and you sign the NDA without reading the small letter.
I'll read all of them. Don't you worry.
And the small letters says, your first newborn child belongs to us.
I think the NDAs I've signed over the years have normally been DJIs, and to be fair, theirs is very. Again, it's quite funny. People say a lot of things, but that I've never had a problem with it. It's fairly straightforward. As I said, the media agreements is the ones that really gets my goat, and I won't deal with them at all. You know, now if there's a media agreement, the only agreement I did sign recently was I agreed to. If they sent me the product, I would make a video about it, which I thought was fair enough. That was a fair enough. You know, if they were going to send it, but they didn't have anything. We'll be expecting another chair, or this time a stool. Can't afford chairs. Chairs are out of fashion no more. I'm banned for YouTube. Hates me now, Louis. It's fine. Don't worry. No matter what I do, it hates me. So I'm in YouTube bin.
I've had words with YouTube.
That's probably what it is. Yeah, what I need to do is deal with the regulators. What I need to do is do something illegal a bit more, or something like that, and upset the regulator. I didn't say you, Bruce. Before
I couldn't endorse that. I couldn't possibly endorse that.
No. Of course, was it? And I laughed my socks off. I saw some famous YouTuber sat on the same chair, and I didn't think, oh. I thought that's Ian's chair. I immediately thought, "Oh, that's Ian's chair." I didn't think, I didn't think that Ian's got the chair that the famous bloke's got.
And I was most disappointed that Ian just reviewed a camera, but he didn't include the benchmark shot of his chair taken with that camera. Where's the frame of reference?
The chair is more famous than me now.
There is. Ian has just about half an hour ago. You released a video. What's that camera that GoPro-esque thing? Have you got it with you?
Yeah, Brave 7 LE. It's one of the more budget action cameras. It's over there. I'll grab it now. Brave 7 LE. It's one of the more budget-orientated action cameras. Again, it does all of the things most of them do.
Around 100 pounds, 100 euros.
Yeah, 120. Yeah, 120, 130. The nice thing about this
4K 60 frames per second.
It'll do 4K 30.
Only 30.
Only 30.
Most of the cheap ones only do 30 frames.
Now, to be fair, what you're getting for the money is very good in the sense if you're getting a front screen like DJI, and it's cracking screen. You know, the quality of it is as good as. Yeah, you see what I did there. It's HDMI output. But where it lets itself down overall at the end of the day is the recording image quality. In bright conditions, it's decent. It's okay. Gary brought it up. Let me get it.
I did bring it up, to be fair. But the bottom line is, well, how much are those other GoPros? I don't know what they go for. GoPros.
I really liked about it. I'll say one thing I really liked about it was this. Right, it comes with this wristband to be able to remote control it. Now, you don't program it, it just works. You can hit start, stop, and record. And I have to admit, it's probably one of the best things I've had on one of these cameras for years, because all these cameras have got Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, but you try actually getting the damn things to connect to your phone to actually do it quickly.
So,
come on.
And what I just like is it's just
saying.
That's no news because this was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And
But it's an
my
extra.
report it's always, is it bigger than this one?
Yeah, it's about the same size as the newer ones. I'm just getting
No,
out the
I'm
housing.
speaking about the 3 Plus.
It's not the size; it's how you use it, Louis.
It's if I were there, let me
No,
grab
no,
my
here it's
other
the
one.
size, because otherwise you'll have to change.
Well, look, control
color.
line, Ian.
Yeah.
Ian's control line today. That's fantastic.
Okay.
Go around in circles, Ian.
So if
That
you
chair
look,
we use.
if you look, there's a Hero 5 Black. So it's about the same size as the large ones. It's virtually the same size as an Osmo Action. Osmo Action.
What's
It's
an
virtually-
Osmo?
DJI one.
Is it a VD?
The DJI one. It's basically the same size as the DJI one. This is a bit bigger than the original GoPro. But yeah, screen on the front, screen on the back. HDMI
It's
out.
interesting. I think it was GearBest sent me a camera, a 4K camera with a little wristwatchy thing, and the wristwatchy thing actually had a screen that showed you what the camera was seeing as well, which was really good, except it didn't work and it didn't get a good review.
But what I found, because all of these things, that's got Wi-Fi, the Sony, the GH5, they've all got it. But what I found with all of these cameras is they're all bloody painful to actually connect to it. Most of the time, you've got to go into your Wi-Fi settings, then get it to connect, then open the app, then do all of that. What was nice was it just worked. You just hit the button and it recorded. So, GoPro.
Hey, I can do that with my watch, Ian.
Yeah.
Come on, you're getting so much yesterday's tech. Come on, that's so yesterday's tech.
Yeah, but it works.
I know it's annoying when they use Wi-Fi to connect. Why don't they use Bluetooth so it just connects automatically instead of you having to choose your hotspot and all that sort of crap? Yeah.
If you've ever had to connect a GH5 to your phone, a Panasonic, honestly, it is painful. You've got to sit there.
I have
for
the
20
same
minutes.
thing with the HX15, the FX1500. It's got the what is it, the rolls,
Panasonic.
the app anyway. Yeah, and
Imaging
it
app.
does everything. You can do everything. You can every function of the camera's on this tiny little tablet, but it's such a pain in the backside. I just want to record and stop recording. I just want a little infrared remote. Yeah.
That's what it does. So it's not as good as a GoPro. It's not as good as an Osmo Action. But for 130 quid, $130, I think it's not a bad deal. That's what it comes down to. And if I lost it, would I try?
For just another 300 quid, you could have a better camera.
Just another 300.
And Ian, that's not a criticism to you, but it is to all the reviewers of those action cameras, because everybody is comparing with the latest and greatest GoPro. But what people should go and, okay, this is a Hero 3 Plus, just compare it with this one, or compare it with the next model, because I don't know, but I still see a lot of people doing action with this Hero 3 Plus, because I think they sold a boatload of this.
Well,
and
this.
you go with these fancy cameras, and you always compare GoPro 8, GoPro 9, GoPro 25, even this one.
Instago.
Well, this is the Hero 2018, which is actually a Hero 5 Black when you change the firmware, because GoPro didn't sell very many of the Hero 5 Blacks and ended up using the same camera as the Hero 2018. And all you do is flash the firmware and it's the same camera. It is interesting because obviously this week there's been a leak on the new GoPro. Which one would this be? The Hero 9? Is it the 9? Yeah. I just think, are people still spending £400 and $400 on an action camera? I've not bought one of the new ones for many, many years.
Well, I had a Sony Mavica, if anyone knows what that is.
Oh,
It's one
yeah.
of the very first digital cameras with the floppy disk drive, about $1,100 in New Zealand. 640 by 480 pictures, and it stored, I think, like 40 of them on a single floppy disk. And that was state of the art way back. It's amazing how far we've come and how much you get for your money these days.
They're good camera. If you take it, the problem is with GoPro, no one's buying them for drones anymore. Okay, apart from FPV, but the FPV crowd don't want it. They want the Session, because they want the small one because it fits better.
Oh, but they like the hyper smooth. They like the hyper smooth now. It's a big thing. Doesn't matter if you've got a brick on your drone as long as it's smooth.
But it is interesting to see how GoPro will get on with this because, again, it's a lot of money in the current climate.
No, and and since we are on the topic of speaking of action cameras,
we should never start it now.
Didn't this used to be about drones?
We have this one. We have this one, which is the Insta with the 1-inch sensor.
Yeah, but it causes your drone to crash. It irradiates anything within 10 foot due to the EMI.
Is it 5G?
No.
If you put it on a Mavic, it will crash.
And it will make the Earth flexible.
It will.
But who uses a Mavic and an action camera?
Well, they made a mount for it, which made me laugh.
They did.
The
mount. They did.
The mount is for the 360 lens.
Oh, is that what it was? Still made it crash.
So why has nobody made a mount for the red camera for the Mavic? That's what I want to know.
I bet there's a video.
Little fleet of them flying around. Now we have a LinkedIn user, which is an unusual name, Mr. User, who's inquiring after your criminal status, Bruce. I think you've had a little bit of news this last week, haven't you?
I'm still a free man, but maybe not for much longer. We had a frank and informal discussion of someone from his CAA and myself last Friday. We discussed a lot of things. We agreed to agree on some things and agreed to disagree on others. But if you saw my video about the needle exchange, you can see that they are under this mistaken belief that if they don't prosecute every infraction of the rules that's brought to their attention, that'll be seen to be condoning the breaching of the rules, and therefore their authority is eroded and so forth. And that's why I brought up the needle exchange program, where you've got a government that says do not take drugs and at the same time gives free needles to drug takers. There is a precedent for this, for saying we know you're going to do something that's against the rules, so we want you to do it as safely as possible, and here is a way of mitigating the harm that may be done if you're going to do it. That's my strategy. I'm the needle exchanger. It says here on the thing there, just says here. I'm giving them the information they need because we know they're going to do it. Fly without an observer. How do you do that safely? Well, that's what people need to know. Otherwise, if I don't do that, I'm endorsing people doing it unsafely by not showing them the right way to do it. And it's a paradigm shift. It's a mind game that the CAA can't get their head around the fact that some of these things are not unsafe. And as I pointed out, the people have been doing this. Every FPV flyer in the world is flown at least once, most of the time without a spotter. There are no bodies, there are no crashed aircraft, there's no injury, there's no mayhem. And it becomes an unjust rule because just rules serve a purpose. They don't just restrict people and remove their freedoms for no purpose at all. There must be a benefit to a rule. And the rule which says you must always have a spotter is unjust because there are many occasions when the spotter serves no purpose. And Martin Luther King says we have a moral obligation to obey just laws and disobey unjust ones. So I'm with Martin on this, but I would never suggest that anyone breaks the rules. I would just say that if you're going to do it, and I can't stop you, do it safely. And here's how you would do it safely.
It is interesting, Bruce, that you've said in their eyes then, if I understood what you've said correctly, that if you break a rule, then you're dangerous. In their eyes, it's that fundamental. So, because we can all agree that just because you break a rule doesn't mean what you're doing is dangerous. You're just not, it's non-compliance to break it down that way. But that's not to say it's dangerous. Whereas in their eyes, the second you're non-compliant, you're dangerous then.
Yeah, that's right. It's this myopic perspective. And I don't think you can create a culture of safety if you're going to be so pedantic and myopic as to believe that, because your credibility is eroded. If you're trying to tell someone, like with my little garden flight, that's dangerous. Really, how can people take you seriously if that's what you are telling people you honestly believe? There has to be a line where you say, well, yeah, we're reasonable people. We're like the health department. We're pragmatic. We can see the benefits to this, or we can say, no, that's in this case, it's not a danger to anyone. And all I'm asking with this regulation is that it's altered to say you must always use a spotter when flying FPV if it is essential to maintain safety. That's all it has to be, because there are many occasions, as I said, where a spotter is essential to maintain safety. And I would never fly without a spotter in many occasions. But there are occasions when it makes no damn difference. It's just another person to choke on the drone.
So in there, obviously the aviation industry over the years has moved in many countries more towards a open and transparent way of taking feedback, because what has been seen over the years, many aircraft accidents have been as a result of people not willing to say what they've done wrong, or willing to actually show where they've been wrong. And whereas the CAA, obviously with you, are clearly building an atmosphere of fear and terror.
He said that himself.
If someone does something wrong, that they're only interested in punishment.
FUD, Ian. It's not only fear; it's FUD.
Uncertainty and doubt.
Doubt.
Yeah.
But the thing is that my point of view also is that, well, look, there are people dying too many people dying every year in manned aviation incidents, and the resources of all regulators is always stretched. They don't have enough resources to do their job. So why are you busy complaining about the glass circles on the bar of the Titanic as an iceberg comes through the side? Deal with the big problems. The little problems, they're not, things that aren't actually a safety issue.
Right.
What?
It's so much easier. It's so much easier to put an old man that does some videos on the internet on the spot. It's so much easier than go after an airline pilot that also flies on his Cessna, doing some aerial shots for the fun of it. So it's so much easier. You painted yourself a big target on your back, and they're going after that target, Bruce.
What they've got to realise, though, is that, and I know this from experience, that bureaucrats, rulemakers and politicians don't like being embarrassed publicly. And they risk being embarrassed because, for example, if they spend a whole lot of time prosecuting me for this potential, flying a little toy in my back garden, and the next day someone's killed in a GA accident, I would like them to explain to the family of the GA pilot why they were busy dealing with me instead of dealing with the real issues. And that you put that out in the media, and suddenly they're not looking like they're in a good place.
No, they won't. You know that, Bruce. You're an easy target, and you got yourself, and you know that perfectly well, better than I, that you've painted yourself a big target on your back, and you're teasing them doesn't help out. So not for the deciding boards, but for the middle level guys, the bureaucrats. Those are the guys that feel bothered by you.
Yeah, but they report to people further up the chain, and if they embarrass those people who are further up the chain through their actions, they are the ones that ultimately bear the consequences of that.
Have you seen a public servant being fired? We don't see that here.
Don't you? Oh, well. Do you want me to come over? Shall I come over and help out?
We would like that a lot, but no.
It is interesting
to fire one of these guys. So they're unfireable.
I've had my own running with the law this week, so you're not alone, Bruce.
Yes.
Don't worry.
Yes, you did.
I had to hang around for them, in fact. So.
What? So half of this panel is a criminal, and the other half are the good guys. So from my point, the right guys are the bad guys, and the left guys are the good guys.
I was doing nothing wrong. It was just someone took offence to it. That's all. So.
Oh my God! Someone didn't like a black chair.
No, they didn't like an Inspire 2.
Oh my God.
Oh, I see some breaking news. I'm just gonna post it into our main chat here, and it involves nudity. I think, just reading the headline. CAA ordered to pay dismissed airport security officer $20,000 over photo incident with colleagues' breasts. Well, there we are. That's important stuff.
This is not a dysfunctional department.
AvSec, we have them here. Employed Richard Noland. Severe assault, him and a female. Well, there we are. All right. Anyway, it's important stuff. We want Bruce as our leader. Do we really? Do we? Bob? Bob?
If you want to see the streets burn, yeah, it'll be fine.
Some interesting feedback though on the Amazon announcement, isn't it? That they got these things, and there are people saying, "Great, we'll have spare drone parts flying overhead all day. We'll You never have to buy another piece for our drones.
If I can specify the equipment they should make them out of, then it'll be brilliant. So I can just pick one or two up every now and again. That'll be
But we do
fantastic.
know that's permission for them to fly within a range only 7 to a total distance of 7 miles and miles from anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah,
it's not the big.
But it's interesting, isn't it, that it's not safety that's the overriding consideration. It's how much money you spend with your lobbyists, because there is no way, I don't care where you fly it, I don't care what safety mechanisms you put in place, there's no way that a 7-kilogram Amazon drone is going to ever be safer than this.
Nope.
So why do they get the ability to have a bigger flight envelope and fly in operations that I can't fly this?
Liability. Look how much money.
It's much safer because they have a SORA manual with 250 pages, and you don't have a 250 pages SORA manual for that.
And billions in the bank.
In the comments, we've got Callum. I don't know if I can tempt him in to come and join us, but he's the man behind quite a few of the drone delivery trials in the UK at the moment, including the ones from Oban to the islands. And so, funny enough, in the comments is the very man that would know the answers to these things. I think a lot. The surprise isn't the surprise really that Amazon haven't got going a lot quicker. And my God, what an awful looking platform they've got.
I still don't think Amazon are interested in the delivery.
No.
It's again about services. People do always forget with Amazon, they're one of the largest services provider on the globe for IT back end and cloud services and the Internet of Things. And whilst, Amazon is always propped up there as this lovely little shopping app that everyone orders their stuff on, but the real money for them is in data in the background, and that's what they're interested in.
The real money's in services all around. Look at even Tesla. What do? They make electric cars. No, they sell software upgrades for electric cars. That's where the real cream in that business is. If you want self-drive, it's another $8,000. If you want this function, it's another $2,000. And when you sell your car, those features do not go with it. The new owner has to rebuy them. That's where the real money is. It's the selling services.
And BMW have started to do the same thing. The new BMW is exactly the same.
No, BMW does that for I don't know how many years. First time I tried to buy.
Well, yes, if you wanted glass in the front of the car, they used to charge you extra for it, but that was BMW, wasn't it?
No, go if you want to go and try to buy a BMW motorcycle like I did too many years ago. And yes, I had 3 BMs. The first one, the salesman told me, what do you want to buy? Welcome to the spare parts company. And he threw me with a catalog, which was heavier than the bicycle, the motorcycle. So it's crazy.
Haven't we just created a parallel? Because no aircraft shall fly until the weight of a paperwork exceeds the weight of the aircraft, and no motorbike shall ride until the weight of the paperwork and the catalogue for the motorbike exceeds the weight of the motorbike.
But it was all optional, so no issues there. On the aircraft, the paperwork is mandatory. So I want to see that Bruce's quadcopter fly with the SORA manual attached.
Well, it doesn't take much paper to outweigh this, so I can just, I don't know, I've got an old book here somewhere. But the interesting thing is, I've completely forgotten what I was talking about, which is really, it's old age. It's terrible. The brain fades. Come back to me. I'll interrupt you later.
Fair enough.
It, as you said, the Amazon thing, it's an interesting aircraft. Again, I think they're all tickling this. If you look at all of these companies, UPS, Amazon, they're waiting for something, whether it's a regulation shift or whether it's I think they probably know this stuff's 20 years off, for the most part, minimum. And I think they're just getting in there really, because you've had Vodafone messing with this, you've had all of the big ones, but you're not really seeing any progress. Everything they're doing, we can do with Ardra today. We can do it. There's nothing here none of us on this live stream could not set up and do. Short of the flight time, we could do it by fixed wing, we could do it by drone. There's nothing magical any of these companies are doing. Yet they grab all these headlines saying they delivered something to someone's backyard. I could do that. A guy was delivering beer off the bottom of a Phantom 3 4 years ago. People could. This isn't difficult.
No, the thing is, it's all positioning at the moment. They're all trying to stake out. And the thing is, that when you look at it, it's like gold mining. There's a gold mine out there, and people are flocking, going, "Oh, we're going to make billions of dollars out of these urban mobility vehicles, out of drone delivery and things." And we've got Amazon sitting on the side selling spades, shovels, and pans. They're the ones who will make the fortune, not the people going out looking for the gold. They know that this is complete folly, but if they position themselves to have the technology and the services, they're going to be raking in huge money from all these startups and all this venture capital that other people are throwing into the industry because they have to license Amazon's technology. Look at all the patents they've filed, and so they're going to walk away like the people who supply the prospectors in the, the gold mining era. They walk away rich men while all the prospectors are sitting there wondering where their money went.
Well, it's a pity we can't get Callum and catch him off guard, because he is involved with the NHS trials in Scotland. So they've got, but that's, in a lot of ways, it's a completely different use case in medical deliveries use case, an obvious, useful, worthwhile, all those other good words. My CD coming, I don't know, or some old bit of equipment.
Yeah, medical. I think we all agree medical is 100%. There is a market for fast transplant of organs, anything like that, and I think drones can really do something interesting there, especially in the big cities, moving between hospitals, A&E departments, things like that. I think there's an opportunity, but I think we've all said that DHL dropping off my parcel like they did today in my garden is not going to be cheaper than a man in a van who's doing 80 drops a day. And I don't care how many parcels they deliver, you will not beat a man in a van with 80 drops a day.
And actually,
even the medical side of things, I mean, they use helicopters at the moment. How many flights are ferrying organs from place to place? It's such a tiny little market. It's not worth the capital investment that we're looking at. You can just use a helicopter and it'll do the job, same as, because all hospitals have heliports. Technology's there now. To invest so much money for a tiny benefit, the business case doesn't look that flash.
Yeah, but it's not like, I mean, we don't all live in a place like where you live, where the tide's out, where you can walk across to Australia, or you can chuck a rock across to your neighbours. You don't all live in tiny places like that.
I'm always throwing rocks at the neighbours. You should see their broken windows. It's terrible.
No. What I see is that this transportation business is a bonus for this gentleman over here, because he has to exchange the needles. So it's a perfect drone delivery system for him. So Bruce, that's your market niche.
I want CAA to start a drone exchange program where when my drone gets dirty, they'll give me a clean one. I think that would be fine.
Oh dear. Oh dear. No, but it is interesting to see quite where, I mean, I've seen some use cases recently where you just think, well, why couldn't you use a boat on a string or a trebuchet? Even you did come to mind the other day. Bruce keeps saying trebuchets, and there was an instance the other day where I nearly said, "Oh, trebuchet," but I didn't. I stopped myself.
Well, let's not forget, the autonomous boat. Use another thing.
Yeah.
It's not just about flying aircraft. We've, Ardru Sub, we got Ardru Rover, which is boat and rover, and it all of these things we could be doing now in these islands. The tech is there. There's nothing particularly difficult about doing any of this, but how much really does a man in a vehicle cost? And I think for years we've said drones are about. The biggest benefit to drones is taking the human out of the equation in a situation where there's danger involved. So inspection, what Louis' business and he's built up on. But, a man driving a van full of parcels isn't something that's dangerous. So where is the benefit to the drone in that? And I think there's a lot of talk, as you say, there's a lot of VC money being thrown around and a lot of nice renderings and a lot of nice everything. But the reality is, low-cost labor is not going anywhere, and at the end of the day, as we move towards cheaper vehicles, electric vehicles, it still makes that compelling.
Milton Keynes.
Love Milton Keynes. Love Milton Keynes.
The biggest problem, yes, it's the labor. And for instance, all the regulations that we have that require for a fully autonomous drone that takes off and lands by itself to always have a pilot in charge. It's crazy.
Yeah. And one pilot, one driver.
And in some countries, it's so crazy that the pilot must be a national of that country. So you go out and have to rent pilots. Then they charge you whatever they want to. So brings up the costs of everything through the roof. So if you can do a service for, say, 1,000 euros in one country, the labor costs will skyrocket to 3,000 easily. That's only because the people that have those certifications that comply with those national regulations are taking advantage of that. So the current situation of regulations is a bonus for a lot of people.
Yes, yeah, I know. Oh, Callum might join us. Give him 5 minutes. Oh, he's obviously having a shower. Okay, we'll give you 5 minutes, Callum. Should we give him 5 minutes, or should we just run away? What should we do?
Has there been anything else we've seen this week? I'm trying to think what else I've actually seen this week.
Well, to this topic, Workhorse have entered into an agreement with Hitachi, and that's the idea of having the delivery drone in the van and then flying out back and forth to the van. I mean, to me, it's just an even further level of complexity when you have a small child that you beat with a stick and say, run over that street over there with this parcel. You know, it's just like, it just staggers me, the idea of the complexity of that.
Did you see the article about I only saw it today, about the Mavic Air 2, the cost of parts? I found that very interesting. Have you seen that?
No, I didn't see that.
A company's done a breakdown, like they do with the Apple iPhones and stuff. And these companies put a cost in, and they're saying that the cost of parts in it's about $130. That's what they put in the cost of parts in on
only that. I would say a little bit more with consideration with all the electric motors, the controller, the camera sensor.
The
guys must tell me where they're buying their supplies, because I'll go there. But please don't tell me to buy 100,000 at a time. So
no, I think it's millions. But I thought it was an interesting one that you're starting to see these kind of companies taking an interest in drones now. This has traditionally been the folly of the mobile phone and the laptop and the smartphone.
Yeah. What is the current price of a Cube Black in UK? 203,
about
almost
220, 220, 230, something like that.
Okay. Do you want to pick it apart and do the total cost?
Yeah. I think we all know, individual components are.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue. So sometimes it's some false. I love the disassembly videos of the iFixit guys when an iPhone or something is released. The guys just they make them lots of money by doing those teardowns. But we must be conscious that is not the real human universe price of the components are.
Did you see the leaked video this week of their virtually completely autonomous manufacturing line, which I saw a video of that before, which is quite impressive. It's quite interesting, and it brought up a conversation I had with someone about Skydio and how they're still unable to supply the models to the people who pre-ordered in. When did the Skydio 2 release? January? Was it January? And they're still unable to meet those pre-orders. And you've got DJI pumping these things out on a virtually entirely automated production line. It's interesting where Skydio are going to end up on this.
I think I've said it before. The problem of Skydio is the same problem as all the other manufacturers: is the distribution lines and the marketing that goes and helps out those distributors.
It's going to be meeting an expectation, isn't it? Because we all know we can go into even I looked at the local hobby store here, and they had quite a few DJI products, which astounded me in a very small model shop. We know we can go. You could pretty much, I don't know, a Mavic 2 or whatever the latest one is. I don't know these things. Just pick a number, and pretty much any country in the world, you'll be able to find one and buy one, someone without too much trouble. And that's the expectation that we have now as buyers, isn't it? Yeah. And that's where Skydio is going to struggle, but maybe they don't care. Maybe they've done a complete
that's not Skydio. It's not only Skydio. It's all other manufacturers. Look at Unique.
Okay. Yeah.
Look at Unique. And the mess it was to buy a Unique drone. Look at those guys that are here fighting more longer than Skydio. Look at it. Let's pull back. What was required to buy a 3DR vehicle? It was not.
I saw someone said, I've got a new drone. I've got a new drone on this thing. It's quite interesting. Another film, and he pulls out a Solo. It's like, well, that's not new, mate. That's not new. I don't know who told you that was new.
Hey, easy. I have a brand new Solo over there. Sorry.
I am trying to find one. I had one and got rid of it. I want another Solo. I've been trying to find one on eBay for a good price, but they're not good prices. People are trying to get 600-700 quid for them still.
I paid 200 for this one, complete with its gimbal.
Welcome, Callum. We're honoured. Callum, we prodded the man with a stick and got him on. Callum is from we did a video with him probably last year. Thales Horizon, and Callum, maybe you want to introduce what you do and then tell us why we're wrong about delivery drones.
I don't think it's a right or wrong thing at all in this game. First of all, thanks very much for inviting me on. Bruce, I've been following you for it must be 10 years. I've lost count of how long I've been following you for. So I bow at your feet of knowledge of the drone industry. So thanks for all the content you've been
pumping out on YouTube. Callum off. Let's get rid of him. We'll get rid of Callum now. Yeah.
Bruce, you've got to spend me that 50 quid on PayPal for saying that. Yeah. We had all this planned in advance. Yeah, I don't want to come in and spoil the conversation and start doing product pitches and all that. But I thought it'd be interesting just to give my 2 cents and my personal experience of the drone delivery side of things. So Horizon, myself, we recently part of some trials up in Scotland, whereby we delivered PPE and we did trials over 2 weeks with an autonomous vehicle. It was around 70 kilometers, so beyond visual line of sight, autonomous flight, and we're helping 2 local hospitals. And we talk about use cases, and I can't remember who, but somebody brought up a really good point. Our intention isn't to replace the man in the van with delivery side of things. There's going to be times where drones are more applicable to delivery, and I'll give you an example because the NHS one is actually a really good one. A man in a van, or I should say person in a van, really, shouldn't I? A person in a van, in some environments, in most environments, are probably going to be a better solution than drone. But I'll give you our example where we did. There's 2 hospitals, Oban and Mull. They're separated by water. And the way on the Isle of Mull, where they get pathology and even things like PPE from the mainland, is via ferry. So you've got the person in the van who has to queue up to go up on a ferry that takes 40 minutes. That doesn't operate in bad weather. To then drive to the other hospital to get that pathology analysed or pick up some PPE that they require in the other hospital. So what service we're fixing there is it's not just a person in the van. If that ferry isn't operational, they can't get pathology across. So you might have an emergency situation where somebody's gone into a hospital, they've drawn blood, and they need to know what's wrong with that person. Is it sepsis? Is it this? Is it that? Well, if the ferry's not running, those bloods aren't getting done.
But will a drone be flying if the weather's so bad? If the weather's so bad that the ferry can't run, how's the drone going to fly?
So the platform we're using, there's obviously lots of platforms we can use. Bruce, you know this. It's dime a dozen. We chose a really good one. It's Wingcopter. I'm sure you've heard of it before. We looked at the data and we could operate. Obviously, it's got its limitations. Of course, it has. But we could operate when the ferry couldn't, up to a certain degree. So when that ferry couldn't operate, unless it was really, really bad, bear in mind this is Scotland we're talking about, we could still operate that service. So, and if the ferry isn't running, if it's a bank holiday, if it's weathered out, if it's a Friday afternoon, and the next time it's going to actually operate is, Saturday morning, you've got somebody that comes in and needs urgent care, and the doctor's trying to, they need to see what's wrong with them. And the first thing doctors do usually is draw blood, right? And let's see what the blood work says. But I'm not a doctor. I've got to caveat that, obviously. I think it's quite clear I'm not a doctor anyway. Now, that person would have to wait in hospital until Saturday morning. Then a person will pick it up in the van, go to the ferry. So by the time it's got to the lab, it's been, 12, 18 hours? We were flying it in around 17 minutes. And it's on demand. So it's not we're stuck to a surface of a ferry. We can send that pathology sample, request that PPE kit, wherever it's going to be, on demand to support the crews at the hospital, the doctors, the nurses, the staff. So that's a use case where it works really well. I think the point I'm trying to make here is, although we in this room are all incredibly passionate about drones, we know full well they're not going to replace all traditional methods of delivery. Of course they're not. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to completely revolutionize the delivery mechanisms that already exist and already work well. What we are trying to do is look at where we can improve traditional delivery methods. And I think that's just a perfect example of the trials in the NHS. And certainly the feedback from the doctors and nurses was overwhelmingly positive. It went far beyond what I thought. I thought we were going to get a good response, but the response was just so positive. It was, can we have this permanently now, please?
I can see that there's a lot of niche cases where there's definite justification for this sort of thing. And I think the real thing that we're challenging is that this perception amongst politicians and lobbyists and others that the skies will be dimmed by clouds of drones delivering every piece of minutiae to every customer that wants it from businesses. And that's where the whole thing falls apart. With these small niche services, there's tiny little vertical markets that can be addressed. But from a point of view of someone who also uses the airspace, I don't want myself and my other hobbyists thrown out of the airspace for these tiny niche cases, which will be probably in isolated regions, as you say, away from major urban centres, where we as a hobby are not going to pose a threat to them. And I find it very annoying that the politicians have been, and the regulators have been hoodwinked by this promise the skies will be dimmed by drones, and therefore they're acting as if that is a fait accompli. They should need to listen to people like you who acknowledge that there are niche markets, vertical markets, small markets, which in of themselves will be very, very important, but they're not going to fill the skies with drones.
A quick question, Callum. How do you compare your operations with, for instance, what Matternet has been doing in Zurich for months and months? They already have been suspended trying to find the fault because one of their drones fell. Two drones fell. And they have thousands of hours of real life experience ferrying samples from lab to lab, hospital to hospital in the Zurich area. Granted that the weather might not be as harsh as in Scotland, but how does your operation compare with such a ongoing case?
Sure. So Bruce's point first, it's a very good point. I started in this industry 15 years ago as a hobbyist. At heart, I am a hobbyist. I was building them when you had to go. I'm not sure if you have Maplin in New Zealand, but it's a small electronics store. It's shut down now, which is a shame. Where you had to hack old security cameras to try and fudge something together to get FP. And this is going back 15, 16 years. So I'm a hobbyist at heart. We're absolutely on the same page. What we're really lucky with in the United Kingdom, at least, I can't speak for any other country because I'm not au fait with the regulatory environment that they sit in, but our Civil Aviation Authority in the UK are very much about learning from industry. So they want to pull industry along. So they have sandbox environments, they support trials and demonstrations. So they worked really closely with us to enable this drone delivery trial in Scotland, our Civil Aviation Authority. And then what they want at the end of it is a very well written, detailed report so they can make informed decisions about the future regulatory environment, how we're going to integrate them into society. So from a UK standpoint, and I can only speak from a UK standpoint, obviously, Bruce, you've got New Zealand CAA standpoint, but from a UK CAA standpoint, they want to work with industry and are incredibly, they're not paying me to say this, obviously, they are incredibly supportive from my personal experience in the industry on asking us, how do we enable the future? And working with us with trials and sandboxes. Obviously, the other companies doing similar stuff abroad. I can't do a direct compare and contrast. We were very much focused on what we were doing. There's some amazing stuff going on around the world, and I think it's good that everyone's having a crack of the whip. But it should be done working alongside and with the regulator. But you need the regulator to be on board for that to be something that can happen first. Thankfully, in the UK, we have a very open regulator who wants to learn from us, to learn from industry. And obviously, it's a two-way thing. I can't speak for any other regulator in any other country.
Yeah, I don't see why they have to ban children from owning radio-controlled model aircraft to do this, though.
Yeah, I think there's more complex questions that are yet to be answered to enable that side of things. We're going through a transitional period. This is all new for all of us. The recent explosion in explosion is probably the wrong word. The recent uptake. It's only been the past couple of years. If you go back 10 years, Bruce, our skies were clear when we were flying our mini drones and our small model aircraft. We didn't have to worry about the things that we have to worry about now. So
hang on a minute, Callum. What do we have to worry about now that we didn't have to worry about 10 years ago? What's happened in 10 years?
We've got so many other air users, haven't we? We've got so many more hobbyists in the air. We've got so many more drone operators flying in the airspace that regulation's been trying to catch up. And at least in the UK, we're in, I believe, a really good place because we have a really good regulator who wants to work with us, to work with industry.
I'm not in the UK, but are the skies actually filled with drones over there? I mean, over here, you very rarely see a drone. And the thing is, it seems to be that they're talking about safety, but drone versus drone isn't a safety issue unless you're flying over a crowd of people where you shouldn't be anyway. So as Gary says, what is the difference? There's actually probably less GA activity now than there was 3 years ago because of costs and all sorts of other things going on. Have the skies really got that busy that we need to ban children from owning model aircraft?
It's not particularly restrictive in the UK. If you want to go fly recreationally a model aircraft, I'm not sure of the age limit on which you can go out and fly a toy airplane. But it's not particularly restrictive in the UK. If you want to go out and fly one,
I think it is. You can't. I mean, when I was a kid, I had my first model aircraft. Yeah, what is it? It's because of the new registration thing. To be registered as an owner, you've got to be. What is it? 16, Gary? Something like that. So under that age. Yeah, you can't own a model aircraft. Well, it's a hobby for young people as much as anything. And if you're going to bar them until the age of 16 from owning their own drone or model aircraft, you're killing the hobby. I mean, and there's no point to it. What is it? What are these people doing? How many kids have gone out there and caused issues? I don't see it. The traditional hobby has been one of the safest things. It's never been a problem for manned aviation or anybody else. But the regulator, although they're supporting industry, they are dealing with a very blunt weapon against the community that isn't a problem, and that's the people who fly radio-controlled model aircraft, the traditional hobby. Why are they doing that? I see no point. And that's why people have this conspiracy theory with tinfoil hats that it's all about Amazon wanting to claim the airspace. You've got to admit, it's hard not to lend credence to that when you see people who have done nothing wrong being penalized for no apparent reason. And that's my beef with most of these regulators is they are not even taking the time to draw a distinction between someone who goes down to the high street and buys a Phantom 4 and tries to photograph jets coming and going from the local airport, and someone who's got a little electric-powered foam model of a Spitfire who just wants to fly it in the local park safely and out of the way, probably not even above the treetops. Why are they so stupid they can't see the difference between that and something that really does pose a threat? And I think that lack of consideration, that lack of respect for what the hobby has built up over many decades is quite insulting. And then they expect total compliance. It's a two-way street. You've got to earn respect. You can't just demand it. And by making these ridiculous demands and assertions, like, I'm echoing. Who's that?
It's you. It's you in the past.
Temporal anomaly. Yeah. So I mean, my perspective is that not much, as Gary says, not much has changed. It's just the outlook, and I'm glad that the regulator's working with commercial operators to get this thing going. But they don't have to sacrifice a hobby to do that because the air is still largely clear.
We got to be careful and not put everything on shoulder. Or we could just blame them.
Yeah, no, you're raising. I think it's important to have difficult conversations like this. Again, I can't speak for New Zealand, but the UK for an operator ID to fly anything over 250 grams, the minimum age is 18. But for a flyer's ID that you need if you're going to fly any aircraft, now I know how you feel, Bruce, about registration in general. There's no minimum age, but if you're under 13, then you just register with a guardian or parent present. So if you're flying something sub 250 grams, there isn't that age limit. You just need parent guardian consent if you're under 13. Obviously, 250 grams plus, you move into a different ballpark.
Yeah, but the thing is, a lot of kids now, they don't have single-family parents. The parent might not be interested in this. They may not have the time, whatever. The kid can't, on their own volition, go out and take part in the hobby. They've got to have an adult to sponsor them into that. And it wasn't the case when I was a kid, and I didn't kill anybody. Well, not that I can remember.
It's a thorn in his thing. We're ganged up on Callum.
Oh no, not at all. It's important that we have these conversations. I'm not a regulator. I work for a professional organisation that's trying to professionalise the commercial drone market and make things as simple as possible for them. But it's important that we don't shy away from these difficult conversations. And again, we're incredibly lucky in the UK that our regulator is open to these conversations.
No, I agree with you because I've only had good experience with them in the past, but I can't help feeling that they're under a great deal of pressure, governmental pressure from other. I think we have to also look at the people in CAA are very good and they're aviators and so on and so forth, and they genuinely are in the UK. They're not just bureaucrats come up from the Ministry of Ag and Fishery or whatever. A lot of them are actually aviators. And they know what's what, and they've also been model aircraft flyers, which is very, very important in our regard. But they're being sat on by MPs, in my opinion. I probably shouldn't.
You're right. Department for Transport, I think, isn't it? The Department for Transport in the UK. It's the same as New Zealand. It's the Department of Transport here. They are the higher body to which CAA reports. They tell CAA what to do. CAA's hands are tied. These are the rules. You enforce them. The enforcement arm is CAA. The actual rule construction is the Department of Transport, and they of course are controlled by the politicians who they report to. So it's a top-down thing, and the politicians have watched the Daily Mail and they've seen how dangerous these toy drones are, and they've then decided, well, we need to do something, and we're telling the Department for Transport to make these harsh rules, and then CAA has to enforce them. So it's probably not totally fair just to throw it in CAA's lap all the time. Need to go up the chain a bit.
Yeah, I'm talking just from personal experience and genuine personal experience. I'm an honest and open person. Sorry, I'll mute it, but I'm not talking if you're getting feedback through the channel. Through genuine personal experience, and I am open and honest. When we did the trials in Scotland, it went, but the CAA were really helpful. They wanted to work with us. They, reviewing safety cases, but so were the Department for Transport. Obviously, this was as a response to the ever-developing pandemic, and we were looking at how we could assist. But my personal experience with the UK regulators across the board, be it Department for Transport and CAA, was nothing but positive. And that's not me trying to counter and play devil's advocate. That is just my genuine experience with them. And again, I don't work for them, so I'm just saying,
Struggle to argue with that. In the comments, Callum, wind speeds were actually mentioned. So what was the max operating limit for your machine when you, if you can tell us? And a question for me is, if you can tell us, don't worry if you can't. What sort of per flight cost was involved?
So it's actually all available online. You can download the spec sheet. We used a German aircraft. It's called a Wingcopter. It's a vertical takeoff and landing, transitions to fixed wing, and it has a payload box. And we were partnered with Skyport, who operated it. You can download their spec sheet offline. There's no hidden commercial sensitive stuff there. They tell you how long it flies for, what weather it can fly in, how fast it will go, and then you can derive from that, the commercial side of things. So there's no secrets with the NHS side of things. It's the Wingcopter, I think 172 or 178, I believe. But you can download the spec sheet online. There's no secrets.
Yeah, no, they're really nice people. I think I don't know if you could turn your speaker down a little bit, Callum. I think that's the That's certainly. Thank you. They are very, very nice people. I met them and spent some time with them in Tanzania on Lake Victoria, and they were a great crowd with a very, very impressive platform, and they said the right things when I asked them difficult questions and didn't shy away from answering difficult questions. So I was impressed. Again, I don't work for them. I don't get paid for it. I know someone who has started work for them today, though, but I probably am not allowed to say that. So yeah, no, it's a great platform, and that obviously is the use cases, medical stuff. There'll be other things. But unfortunately for myself, I feel Amazon are just hoovering up patents left, right, and center, and gonna be selling on whatever they can sell on. I don't know, Ian. Everyone else, you're all being quiet and studious. Someone jump in, or not.
Sorry, I was trying to find the button. Yeah, I think the use case Callum has shown is exactly what we were talking about earlier. It's areas where you can. Okay, it's not going to cover every use case because of the weather and things like that, as he's saying, but it's a scenario where you can deliver a package that it's not about cost. And I think that it's not about, if we look at parcels, for instance, and I keep coming back to parcels, but that's where this whole thing is. UPS have stuck they got some drone they took off the shelf and put their symbol on the side of it, and Amazon, and you've had all of this footage. We are delivering a parcel, and you can get a parcel halfway around the world for like a tenner. A drone is never going to do that. You can get a man in a van around the country, but it's these cases where time and availability is the most important thing. I need something to get from there to there now, and a drone can do it, and there's a system in place that allows it to happen quickly and easily, and that's where the real benefits will come. And as you say, across islands, 70 kilometers is a good distance. That's certainly something not to be shied at. But we're going to see this develop more and more. And I think, the UK is actually a good place for testing this stuff because we've got a lot of options like this, places we can do this. We've got situations in Wales where there are parts of Wales where
no one in a van dares to go. Yeah, I know. Yeah, there are parts of Wales, yeah. But the whole area of Wales, no one will go.
Wales, yeah. There's parts of Wales where the sheep wear khaki, Gary. Remember that? That's and you'll go over some of those mountain roads, and it's not your wheels you'll have to worry about. Those sheep are ruthless, I can tell you now. But yeah, so there are situations for medical, for research, for we have it down here. I have some oil refineries where I am, where they move some pretty important cargoes around at times, whether it's for testing samples and things like that. So it's situations that it's just this whole thing these companies have dressed up of an Amazon drone delivering your set of headphones you ordered this morning 2 hours ago, or your £2.99 hair clips that you ordered for your kid. And I think they've all tried. That's Bruce, Bruce's hair clips, and they've all tried to play this bandwagon, and that's the frustration. And I think UPS was one of the ones that really played it quite well.
I think the clue to Amazon's real intent is that they stopped doing the adverts with Jeremy Clarkson a couple of years ago, didn't they? So for 3 years, he was the Christmas advert, wasn't he, having stuff delivered, and then he wasn't. So it's like, oh yeah, so that's where the tail is. Now, Callum's actually one of those nasty airspace. Well, actually, Callum, what does your product do? Is it airspace management? Is it platform management? Is it all of it? What does the Horizon platform do?
Good. Well, I absolutely don't want to turn it into a sales pitch, and I'm not a salesperson. I'll be honest. I tune into all of your live chats, and I'm just interested to learn from you guys too. So I absolutely don't want to take over this. I was learning about GoPros before I dialed in, and it's quite interesting about reflashing the firmware.
Yes,
I didn't know that one, so I'm taking that one away. So we identified a problem in the drone market about 2 years ago. I ran a drone company for 4 years, so I've got first-hand experience of this, whereby it wasn't my ability to go out and fly as much as possible was my hindrance. It was my ability to keep on top of the administrative burden for the planning process, your risk assessments, your logging, all that stuff. That's what was holding me back. I could go fly every day. I just didn't have enough time to physically do all the planning. because it was all paper-based, right? It was all paper, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets. Really quick, in a nutshell, we've digitized the entire flight, not only planning, but the flight planning process, but also the organizational management side of things for drone operations. So we've got thousands of users, all the way to one person drone operations, to hundreds of large-scale enterprise who rely on us day in and day out to ensure that they remain compliant. Sorizon.io, it's free if you're a one-person band. Sign up, have a play. It's got all the airspace data there you need. It's got premium weather that you'd pay 20 quid for if you got it from anywhere else. Sorizon.io. But I'm not going to sell it. Go have a look, have a fiddle, have a play around, and reach out to me if you want to know any more. But I'm keen not to detract from this conversation from you guys, because I'm here to learn from you.
Well, that's just terrible. With Sorizon.io, was it? Let me make sure I get the right website up. I put another one.
Yeah,
up.
I'm trying to find it now.
I put the other one up. Hang on, I put the title list one up. Here, let's put this one up.
Where is
So Sorizon.io, and it'll say log in, and it redirects you to platform.sorizon.io. And you know what? It's really swanky. It's a pretty cool bit of kit if you fly drones and you can use it recreationally as well if you want. In terms of your planning, your risk mitigation, the identification of airspace hazards, all that good stuff. Even your logbook, it's all there. So what we've tried to do is really consolidate the entire mission planning process, and not just the mission planning process, but the operational processes that, if you're a company, you have to adhere to. And again, it's free to sign up. Just have a play around, have a poke around, try and break it. Give us some ideas of something you'd like to see, and that's in a nutshell.
And so then your part in the thing in Scotland then is as the paperwork compliance, if you will. Then so here's the aeroplane, here's the operator, and here's all the paperwork and tying all those bits up, so that it becomes a repeatable exercise. So when you're not there and someone else is there, this is how it's done.
And that's the important thing. We shouldn't be doing trials if they're not repeatable. When we invest time and effort and we work with the regulatory bodies to do a complex trial, in the forefront of our mind is how do we ensure that if this takes off, it's a repeatable service. There's no point dangling a carrot in front of the NHS saying, look how cool this 2 weeks were, weren't we good? Without us being able to go back in and offer a full-time service. And that's where the digitization of the mission planning process and automation is crucial. It's the backbone to everything. If you don't get the planning process right and digitize it so it's all in one compliant place, everything else falls apart. It's the foundation of all of our trials. So yeah.
So does that spawn itself out then? So if I should sign up and have a go, shouldn't I? Someone is asking how much is it for an annual, so I'll let you answer that in a minute. So if I put two dots on I'll draw a line on a map, does the thing scale out? Well, if that's where your line is in the world, you'll need this, and this. Does it go off and find all the bits I'll need to be able to fly that line somewhere in the world?
So at the moment, we do a couple of things, and especially for people in the EU, there's some really cool stuff coming in. So at the moment, if you go on and you pick a point in the map, we won't just tell you what type of airspace you're operating in, FRs, TDAs, all that good stuff that you'd expect. We have NOTAMs in there too, so you don't have to go out to NATS to view NOTAMs. One of the things we're working on, and this is something that's going to affect recreational as well as commercial pilots, is and operators, is integrating some stuff that will support the new EU regulations coming into effect 1st of Jan 2021. So we know how much confusion that's causing in the market. We know it's a massive administrative burden to try and learn all the new processes you're going to have to do as a recreational or commercial operator. So we're sort of building in Sorizon, bedding in all of the operational processes to make them fully compliant with the new EU regulations. So that's one of the things that will be coming in. So you'll click that point on the map and we'll tell you, based on the aircraft you selected, you operate in an open, specific or certified category. Hopefully you're not flying the big stuff, so open likely. Depending on what aircraft you selected, is it transitional category or is it class 0 to class C4 when we get them, and then we'll let you know your operating limitations off the back of that. so you can go out very simply and have a safe and legal and compliant flight.
And then, do you have a connection to air data? John Ashley is asking.
Is that air data in the general sense? Do we have a data feed for sort of airspace information? Because if you're asking in the general sense, yes, we pull an assured source of aviation data. We use Snowflake at the moment, and they're really good. So anything you can envision in the UK and Europe that you'd require to know before you go operate an aircraft is displayed on our intelligent map. And not only that, when you click a point, we tell you. So you've got the overlays as you'd expect, but when you click a point, we actually bring a little side window out and list everything one by one, so you can read through it as an operator.
So here's a question. I'm just looking on the website now. I've just registered. Yep. Actually, I'm just doing it as we were speaking. So from the pilot logs point of view, do you use your own dedicated app? Does it sync the DJI logs, for instance, on the DJI aircraft? How does that information get in there?
Yeah. So at the moment with the pilot logbook, when you start planning a mission, you'll have 3 tabs, and the third tab is log. And what we'll do is we can pre-populate most of it, because we know you've flown that mission, we know what aircraft you've selected. All you'll do at the end of each mission is give us takeoff time and landing time or duration of flight. And then we start to populate your logbook for you. One of the things we are working on, I can't give a time frame, is that manual file upload and automating that process as much as we can. I'll caveat that slightly. So at the moment that exists, you can do that. You can add your manual flight logs, and it takes seconds. We are heavily focused around security. Everything we do is underpinned by the best security in the world. So Horizon is part of Thales. Thales is an international aerospace company, cybersecurity space company. You may or may not have heard of them. And we do lots of stuff. One of the things that we are world leading in is cybersecurity. So anything we make has to be bulletproof. So when we're talking about integrations and things like that and automatic syncing, the first question that comes into our mind is, how do we ensure that this is as safe as possible for the end user in terms of making sure that nothing malicious can happen in the middle?
And then, are you plug and play with the 5 approved types in America then for their data and things like that? Because that's part of the very big picture, isn't it? The blue SCIS airframes.
Yeah. So although we're available across the world, you can sign up commercially in the UK and the EU. We don't yet have a commercial model in the US, and that's something we're working on. So we'll pull in the relevant data types then. At the moment, commercially available, UK and EU. Okay,
that's going to become an ever more interesting subject, especially now that China are potentially going to ban the export of DJI equipment. The Chinese themselves are potentially going to ban the export of that gear to the Americas, potentially.
Really?
But yeah,
I'm not sure on that one.
No,
I read the whole thing.
Did you look in the Chinese papers and have a look about as well?
I had a quick look at some stuff, and again, okay, if it did come to that, they're certainly going to get permission to be able to sell them. But it's quite funny, these things, isn't it? There's always a lot of posturing. We're going to block this. We're going to block that. The reality is, all of this stuff that they say they're going to do, to this day, there's still nothing has really come of these trade blocks and things like that. It's a lot of posturing for news, but do we honestly think the US cannot afford for China to really get upset? Let's not pretend for 1 minute that every smart device, every phone, every tablet, every laptop, every piece of technology is manufactured for the most part in China. So as much as there likes to be some saber rattling on the US side, they cannot afford to shut the world down. And it does make me laugh. There was a cracking comment this week about the new Tesla factory, which is in China, making the model. Is it the Model Y or the Model S over there? But it's not for America. It's for the Model 3. That's it. It's for that market. And all of these people are going, how dare they? I'm not going to buy a Tesla. And one of my favorite comments was, I do not agree with Elon Musk doing this. As an American, he should know better. And it just summed everything up for me, because I just sit there and just went, you really don't get this, do you? You just don't
You're
understand
from Pretoria. Because our newspapers are all saying South Africa is the third richest person in the world.
You know, I love it when he comes on stage in his stripes and shot, and he's shooting off with his cowboy hat and firing his, he's traditional American. He really is, and but yeah, so it sums everything up. And all of these people are typing these comments on smartphones made in China, or laptops made in China. And the reality is the US cannot survive without China. China cannot survive without the US. They're in a relationship.
I've wound you up and let you go. I didn't mean that to happen really quite much. And it's important to remember that what we're talking about is actually it's going the other way. It's China is talking about banning the export, bar exceptions, of quite a few technology products to America. So let's say they do ban the exports of those laptops and smartphones. It would be very interesting, wouldn't it?
Very interesting, very quickly. And I think there'd be a very different tone. Especially in countries as laptop sales in the last 6 months have probably been higher than they've ever been. Every company has been buying laptops for their staff, the people working from home. The three businesses to be in the last 6 months has been laptops, webcams, and microphones, because they're the three things that everyone has been trying to get. So it would be a great time for China just to cut off the US supply of this stuff.
So we shall see. But as I'm sure they will remain on the export list and won't be that worried, but it would give them a shock. But and
there's been a lot of talk this week, hasn't there, Gary, around the Parrot thing, around the Skydio thing as well.
I don't know why Parrot today told us again they were one of the 5. I don't know why I checked and double checked that that they had issued that press release today.
Lest we forget.
We just want to remind everyone we are relevant and we are important. And there's a lot of whispers around, what's going to happen, Chinese drones, America. I still think this whole thing won't change. Everything will be exactly the same in 12 months' time.
You're probably right. But meantime, there are concerns and systems like this are going to, some people are going to ask questions of them, what is the data secure? And I'm sure it is. I'm not saying it's not, Callum, but, it is more and more of these questions are going to be asked of all parts of the food chain.
It's the security thing
is off topic. We're talking about the potential banning of the export of, not just drones, electronic devices in general from China. It's not necessarily the finished product that they have the monopoly on. It's the raw materials. So we know there's certain raw materials that you absolutely need to make a LiPo battery to make an LCD screen. China has a monopoly on the raw materials. So if there's a ban on export of those, then we're really in trouble because nobody else has them in the quantities that China does. So we couldn't even make it if we wanted to.
This paranoia thing. If America was a person, if the UK was a person, if Australia was a person exhibiting this level of paranoia, they would be locked up. So why do governments get away?
I was very worried what he was going to say then. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was very, very worried. We are definitely going off topic a little bit, but generally if you get drunk with somebody in a bar anywhere in the world, you don't want to go to war with them, regardless of the nationality, and yet somehow nations go to war with each other. People have children all around the world, people live with their families all around the world in a safe and quiet way.
I have children all around the world. I've been told I have children all around the world. Yeah.
I'd like to hear what Callum has to say. Then we can turn towards the camera. Can we get him to turn towards the camera, talking to the mic? There you are. You've been told, Callum, by Brian Haviland. Fed agents are no longer able to want to use the jet. No, they're not. But that predates predates. It's not a Trump thing. It predates that, and people make the mistake of conflating the two issues. Okay, he's saber rattling about it now, but it predates that. As the Chinese say, may you live in interesting times, but they don't actually, do they? It's not a Chinese proverb. What else should we talk about? Let's just move away from that one that I steer it on to. Anyone else seen anything else?
Did Ian finish relating his story about the drone and the police?
Oh yes, Ian's running with the law. I believe, weren't you a copper, Callum, back in a previous life?
I can neither confirm or deny.
That's a yes.
No comment.
So you were a politician then?
He does look like he might have been on that side of it. Yeah.
No comment.
I have to say, our boys in blue were fantastic. I've had no issues. Okay. I had some testing on an aircraft I had to do this week, and I was doing everything correctly, legitimately, and some guy decided to take offense at that, and rather than allow me to explain what the situation was, he decided to call me some names, take down my car reg number, and say I should be locked up, and some other unpleasantries, and phone the police. So I
agree with him on one aspect. You should be locked up. You should be locked up because you're a dangerous society
character. Yes.
Nothing wrong. So anyway, I finished what I was doing and I hung around because what I felt was, A, I don't like the fact it's wasting police time, but B, I had nothing to hide. So I finished the flight, hung around for about 20 minutes in the car. They didn't arrive at that point, so I drove off. And as I was driving away, I saw a police car come around the corner. So I waved them down, and they were, in their vehicle. And I just said, "Are you looking for someone about a drone?" And they were a bit startled because they were like, "Yes." And I went, "It's me. Do you want to pull over? We'll have a chat." And they were brilliant. I had a quick talk to them, explained to them the situation, explained to them who I was. The irony of the situation was I actually had no ID on me because I was only 15 minutes from my house. I popped out quickly to do it. I was in a vehicle that's registered to the other side of the country for perfectly legal reasons, but that was where it was. So it was quite funny, but I had a chat with them. No problems at all. Explained to them. To be fair to them, they were good guys. They didn't really fully understand the situation. In fact, themselves, they didn't really understand the law from a drone perspective. They asked quite a few questions, and I explained to them, this is where I was, this is what I was doing, this was the distances I was from people, this was the maximum distance I'd flown, this is this, that, and they were more interested in taking it on board. One of their comments was, okay, that's not the normal kind of drone we've had to deal with in the past, because it was an Inspire 2. This isn't a small bit of kit. It's, he was like, how much is that worth? When I told him the price, he was like, okay, this isn't what we normally deal with. And they were fine, absolutely fine. And I apologized to them, but I also explained to them, Louis, you're talking, you're on mute. I just explained to them, and they said fine. They were more than happy.
So you didn't have to show your registration or your PFCO, whatever it is you have, no documentation?
No, I didn't have anything on me, ironically, because I'd popped out for half an hour to do something. Literally, I was flying not commercially. I was flying as a hobby operator. It wasn't a commercial flight. My drone registration was on the aircraft, as is legally required in the UK. So it was on there. So I showed them that, but they didn't really know what to do with that, which did make me chuckle. But they were good guys, and they were. I get the impression they didn't really know what to do about it, and they didn't really want to take it any further. They made a couple of comments of, do I think it was the right place to do it? And I went, well, no, from a legal point of view, I done nothing wrong, and I always steered it that way. They were saying, well, there's a lot of people down, it could be a lot of people there. And I said, but where I wasn't, I was maintaining distance. It wasn't a problem. So it's frustrating because it's the first time I've flown that aircraft since lockdown because of the situation we've had. It's the first time I've flown just to go and put a few packs on something for quite a long time. And what happens is I get abused and attacked in the streets. So, it's
just like being on here, isn't it?
It serves you well. And every Inspire 2 pilot should get the same treatment, and the police should apprehend the drone, confiscate the drone, because that way they won't be able to fly.
How loud she is. But you do forget how loud the Inspire 2 is. It was a loud aircraft. He's saying I'd flown over his property airspace. No, it was nowhere near him. I was at least 300 meters from him at all times. But perspective comes in, and I did explain that to the police as well. I said, guys, look, this was the height. I can show you the logs. The irony is that. Sorry.
Did it help that you were wearing that "Don't Taser Me, Bro" T-shirt?
No, but I did have all my high vis in the back of the car. I had road cones. I had all of the gear on me. But so I said, look,
pretending to be a police officer. I see. Yes.
But it says commercial drone operator. But it was a hobby flight. But it is frustrating that you can do everything legally and correct, yet you still get problems with people, even now. As
I tell you, what's more worried about, worries me a bit more of your retelling of it is this: is that the police officers were able to say this is a bit bigger than the ones we normally deal with. So that rather infers that they've been out to other calls.
I think they probably have. I think there's quite I live in an area which is a fairly big holiday area, so drone. Even I'm noticing on the local Facebook groups a lot of tourists bringing aircraft down and taking images and stuff. I'm looking at going, yeah, that's not legal. There's no way you can do that, or there's no way you should be doing that. You can't police the internet. You can't go online and tell them. And interestingly, I'm going to jump back to what Bruce said earlier. I'm not even saying what they're doing is dangerous, because actually what I'm saying a lot of isn't dangerous. It's just not compliant. And there is a fundamental difference between those two things.
And the bottom line is, where are the bodies?
But
I think for people like us in the room, I've had the police turn up, even when I was a police officer flying recreationally, probably 4 or 5 times, pretty much exactly how you've just described.
Yeah.
What I take from that is it's an opportunity to educate 2 people who are going to go into incidents like this in the future with my professional experience that they can then take forward. Yeah. So I tried to turn the negative into a positive. I now have an opportunity as a professional drone operator, as you did, and which you did. You educated 2 individuals, so when they go to the next drone incident, that they know what they're going into. They've learned something, and hopefully they tell their colleagues too. You never know; they might even download Cap 722 or something like that. Who knows? Yeah. But yeah,
it was kind of sad though, because would they have stopped someone who was kicking a ball around, or someone who was playing a game of cricket or something? It's just a recreational pastime hobby. We have been vilified by the media, so we're automatically assumed to have been doing something wrong. Therefore, call the police, and when the police arrive, you've got to explain your situation to them. And you're not endangering anybody.
I think the police are in a difficult position with this. They've had a call. They've got to attend at that point. They don't know, is it some guy trying to...
Yeah, it's not like it's a robbery or something, eh? No. Not like it's a burglary.
I think what I took stock from it was it was an opportunity for me to explain a few things, because actually I was in the middle of... I'm also trying to go... my PFCO has technically lapsed because I left it for a month, but I'm in the middle of renewing. I'm doing my 2 hours. It was part of my 2 hours, in reality. But it wasn't a commercial flight because you're not flying commercially. But I explained to them, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing. The irony of the situation was that I didn't actually have my wallet on me, but I was able to explain all of that. But they were interested, weren't particularly bothered. They thanked me for hanging around, because they did say it would have been a nightmare. For me, the frustration is I seem to attract the nutters, unfortunately, whilst doing this, and it's not the first time. I've been literally accosted probably 4 times now, and it does make you think: is it worth it?
It's the Inspire 2. It's the Inspire 2.
It's because he doesn't shave every day. You got to shave every day. You look like a hobo.
Look like a hobo.
But it just comes back a little bit to my old man codgeliness again, as ever. But surely, who at what? To my mind, you only ring the police if there's a real problem. If there's a real problem, because I'd be afraid of calling the police. I don't know, even if there was a half a problem that I was a little bit worried about, I'd actually be worried about calling them, because you don't want to waste their time. So how have we got to this situation where you can complain? And I bet people do complain about children kicking footballs against a wall, or playing tennis, or doing whatever, just being loud in a park. children
Don't
allowed.
forget, don't forget that there are people that will call the police for whatever it is because they say that's why I pay my taxes so they can be on call.
Yeah, but
Karen.
but we all know they're a finite resource, aren't we? And we all know they're thinly stretched wherever you are in the world.
No, they're all called Karen. It's the Karens.
It's the Karens, but it's just. Well, that's another one of it because on this channel we can put the world right. That is another one of the big problems with the world, though, isn't it? How have we allowed ourselves to get this position where we can call on people that have sometimes got to do really serious jobs for absolute trivia? That we should face some sort of censure for that. Look at Bruce. Obviously, Bruce is a hardened criminal. Of that, there can be no doubt.
Oh, come on! Haven't you seen the news of today? Today's news about that singer Adele that had the hairstyle, something like that, and the entire internet was on fire because of her hairdo. Come on, what's a drone compared to Adele's hair? So it's crazy. So
I think the problem is it's people who are not willing to listen. You know, if this person had given me 5 minutes of his time, I could have talked to him, listened to what his problems were. You know, the words he used, clearly he thought I was spying on him. I could have alleviated that in 10 seconds. I could have showed him the SD card footage. I could have showed him the camera. The problem is with these people
they
is
don't
they're not
want to.
willing. They don't
you're just losing your time and not this time. You're just losing whatever you're saying. It won't resonate on his head, and it's time that we lose. It's better call the cops. Do you want me to call the fire brigade too? Just call everyone.
I said to him, it's quite funny because he made a comment. He said, "I've called the police. You're in big trouble now." And I said, "I'll hang around and wait for them. I look forward to it." You know, because when you've done nothing wrong, you know, but they were good guys. They were good guys, so I'm, you know, they haven't kicked my doors in yet. I invited them to come around. I said, if you want to come around and look at the house, I got enough equipment to, you know, to be honest, if they walked into here, I'm not. So you know, they're going to think.
Yeah, we know.
I don't think it's unique to our industry either. I don't think that problem is unique to drone operators. No. You know, the kid kicking the football against the wall. That person is going to call the police for that as well.
Yeah.
Us, you know, if I went and used my little remote control car with the nitro engine that's making a racket, that same person is going to call the police for that too. So I don't think it's necessarily a victimization of us in our hobby. I think it is broader than just that. Some people just want to put the world to rights if they're not quite happy about one small thing, unfortunately. And indeed, I've had instances like you explained come up to me, and thankfully some people have given me the opportunity to explain myself. And I've actually given drone footage of people's houses that I've, you know, they've then, you're good, you're safe. Can you turn and take a picture of my house? Yeah, all right. Give us your email address, I'll send it you. So I've been able to flip a couple of conversations, but you're right. Some people just don't want to hear it. They just want to get on 999 and have their 5 minutes of fame, as it were.
I never forget.
But then you should have some. Sorry, but you should have some censorship for that. You just can't do that and get away with it, can you? I mean,
you know, and it's quite funny. I remember getting stopped by a couple. I was flying only a Mavic out at a beach somewhere, and the husband was inquisitive, and the wife was horrified, and it was fantastic because they were walking together, and the reactions were like, the husband was like, "Is that a drone talking?" And he was like quite inquisitive, and then when I started showing him, he's like, "Oh, look at that!" And she's like, "I don't like them at all. It feels like I'm being spied on," and it was brilliant because it was just both sides of the coin right there next to it. But by the time I'd finished and I'd showed her, she's going, "Well, it doesn't really, you know, people say you can see," and I would say, "Look, take your phone and put it 50 meters in the air. That's what I can see." Do you know what I mean? You know, this isn't a guy with a 400-500 mm lens in a hedge. You know, what I can see is the same as, and I always say a smartphone. I always use the words you can see the same as a smartphone. You know, when I want to follow you, I've got the camera in the car for that one. That's exactly the one I use when I am.
Like, there's my special jacket over there for when I pretend to be a tree. Exactly. Richard Joyce saying, "Wait till we have remote ID and see all those mad people who have sit you out," and that's sadly. That the very open nature of remote ID and the idea that they will be able to access your position from an app is
And that's my
frightening.
fundamental issue with it. The fundamental issue as a commercial operator is you're responsible for ensuring that your area is secure. You do a cordon as a commercial operator. When you're flying, you put a cordon in place. And if someone has an app where they can go, oh, there's a drone, he's in that field over there, I'm going to go and see him. It changes the rules. And I still feel it could end single ops flights completely. From a health and safety point of view, I don't see how you can guarantee your own safety.
And there's another Mr. Disc 000. Probably don't know meet solicitors. It's a modern world, isn't it? It's a moan. Here on what's that old moaning old men program we've got in the UK?
The frustration is you've got grumpy old men. You've got real criminals in New Zealand. Flying
Drone and
drones.
sundry.
You got real criminals in New Zealand flying their drones in their backyard and without being real hard and
with needles. Come on,
needles.
And they're going to do remote transportation of needles and
crochet and everything.
Is he having a fit? Hold on. Is he all right?
It's my gang signs. How does it go? It goes, was it east side, west side, your mama's side?
No spotters. Yeah.
No spotters. Yeah. Right. No, we're definitely diving down into the world of nonsense. Have we actually seen any news we want to talk about before we depart?
DJI work's finished. Overall, nothing really thing. The Brendan thing is worth a look about regulation, and there's some interesting points in there. That's about it. There's not, and as you say, Parrot have been saying again about how the thing that other drone company is still saying how they've invented the world. And that's about it.
There's another one. There is actually there is a drone NDA which I can't break yet, but it's one of those 5 companies. As much as I'll give you, and that they're also going to be shouting. So for some reason, the 5 companies have decided to have a bit of a shout fest. I don't quite know why. After that, perhaps it didn't go as well as they thought it might. Perhaps not enough people have twigged the implications of this over there.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, why are they advertising this? Because look, if this is what it is, government contracts, the public don't need to be involved at all. We everyone else doesn't need to know about this. The reality is
it's a voucher. It's a voucher on their proficiency and the confidence that the government. It's a government stamped confident drone. So yeah. You have the confidence. Even the government buys our drones because we are, whatever.
Many of these companies are not selling to the public. So, what benefit are they getting out of this? Do you see what I'm saying?
They're not selling to the public.
Well, Parrot are no longer in the consumer drone business.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong. They're still selling the Anafi. You can go out and still buy the Anafi. Because of our conversation, I was discussing with that. And yeah, they still sell. Don't take it wrong what they said.
What, they're no longer in the consumer drone business? That's what they said.
The question is there a consumer drone business? What is the consumer drone business?
Well,
is it the FPVs? Is it the Mavics? Is it the Phantoms? Is it the Inspires for those
consumer is selling any product
to buy Inspires to go around and call the police? So what is the consumer drone market?
Well, the only product they had, I thought they had in the consumer drone market was the Anafi.
And you can still buy it, and they're not stopped selling the Anafi.
So what have they actually left then?
What they did a couple of months ago, and that is true, they dropped the toy ones.
Okay.
So they're still selling the Anafi. So no issue there.
It is interesting how much noise is being made by these 5, isn't it? It's and the other company who says they make all of their software. Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, there is that.
At least on 2 of them, one I'm 100% sure, the other 95% or 99% sure they're not using that company's software.
No.
But
Yeah, they're
one
running
thing,
around saying everyone is.
I believe what they're trying to say is that all those drones can use Mavlink, which
Yes.
is not a company product.
So we're basically saying because it uses Mavlink, it's using their software. That's brilliant.
Something like
Come
that.
on.
Something like that.
That's why we are not in charge of marketing departments, Ian.
Apparently, Mr. Disc 000 is Mark. That's his porn star name, apparently.
Is it?
On
Apparently, that's
Pornhub.
that.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
Mark's.
Yeah, that's his
So-
Pornhub name. Yeah, you see his channel on Pornhub.
Something
yeah.
I did spot, and what was it? Because it was. So it's relating to this. It'll come to me in a second, Louis. So we're saying. What was it? It was quite good as well.
It's plainly
No.
excellent.
Yeah, clearly.
Okay, those two guys,
Give me a
these
second.
two guys are forgetting their stuff. That one even forgets his licenses to fly an Inspire. That one, I don't know what he forgot because he wasn't able to tell him.
You don't get a license to fly an Inspire. You get paid to fly an Inspire.
You get paid to fly
to
it.
take an appointment landfill. Yeah, that's what you do.
What was? It
Do
was
you
around.
have the noise producing license? Because you have to have one noise license to fly the Inspire 2.
She's loud. I forgot how loud it was. It's a bloody loud aircraft, especially braking from 60 mile an hour.
That's called the grounds. That's a that's
No.
different.
It's. I was testing some things, and it certainly breaks bloody quickly. What was I going to say? It was around that as well. So Mavlink. It was around Mavlink. No.
No,
No.
Mavlink.
Oh,
You
right.
have Mavlink 1 and you have Mavlink 2. So perhaps they're saying that their drones speak Mavlink. One of them, I'm sure it speaks Mavlink. Because
I
have
remember.
you tried? You don't have an Anafi, Ian.
No.
Have you
No, I
tried? Have you tried to connect an Anafi to Q ground control?
No, I haven't.
It works. It
It's
works.
sick. That's cool.
Yeah.
I've remembered. So this article that I read that was saying about the top movers and shakers in the drone industry. I'm guessing, was it an article or an advert then? That was what I was going to say, Gary, because it smells a lot like an advert based on what I was reading in it.
Where did you read it? Did you read it in
Was it
SS
in-
News or somewhere else?
No, it wasn't on yours. It was in
No.
Drone Professional. Was it? They were touting a
Yeah,
website. Oh, and it's
I
the
threw my
biggest
toys out
movers
top
and
today,
shakers.
Yeah, I did someone else because I don't charge anybody. All of those people. I hang on a minute. Let me get up. I'm getting on my high horse. all of those people charge to have articles and stuff put in, and that's exactly what they are. And we don't. And that gives me the idea that I can be independent. And if I think something's rubbish, I don't put it in. Or if I think something's particularly rubbish, I might put it in because I trust the dear SUS news reader to actually identify the bullshit. And in the past, I did put a perpetual motion machine in, and some people got very angry with me because I put that in. But it made me laugh, so I put it in. But yeah, so I threw my toys out of the cot today because some people, they're just spouting rubbish, and that's part of it. But it is the marketing thing. It's a Silicon Valley thing. It's the buzz of it all. But I'm sure most people see straight through it, can't they? Surely.
I think also as news of the week is something that I don't know if Ian has got it. There's a well-known brand of European-made GPS units, Centrio, which it is very hard to purchase by the normal terms and the usual ways. And they came up with an agreement with the DigiKey, so they're on the DigiKey catalog. So guys, just click it, purchase now. They're very good, and with that comes a cost. So it's not your run-of-the-mill $15 Chinese brand.
MAN Banggood, yes.
Who are they made by, Louis? What's the name of the company?
Centrio.
If you go to SGS News, we ran that story today.
Oh, did you? Let's have a look.
Hang on, I'll put it up. Eventually, if it ever
So do
loads.
they use a better class of satellite or what?
Yeah.
No, they do some
70,
smarter things on the GPS signals. They are smarter, filtering all the noise. They do a lot of smarter things.
Yeah, they are very good.
Whatever they manage to receive.
Yeah, they're a competitor to U-Blocks, aren't they? It's the actual SOs. They're doing the whole
I
thing.
wouldn't say they're a competitor to U-Blocks. It's let's say a professional level GPS system.
Oh, come on, they just buy from Banggood and put their own sticker on them.
Exactly. That's exactly what
Yeah,
they do.
something like that.
That's exactly what they do.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. They don't come cheap, do they?
No,
No, they don't.
Ooh, no.
but that's if you want precision, my friend. That's what
Yeah.
you get.
You can't put a price on bragging rights.
No. Then you can brag a lot with that one.
Did
I've just-
everybody see? Well, did everyone see the seminar that CAA and the Ministry of Transport and the MBIE in New Zealand held, announcing the results of a survey, the third survey in a row they conducted to get information to help them shape the future of regulation in New Zealand? Did everyone see that? If not, I put a link there that Gary can share.
Yes,
And this whole survey, right at the end, was the only bit worth watching, which was the summary, because the Ministry of Transport, as I said, this is the level above CAA. These are the people that make the rules. They came out and said, finally, we have the data necessary to move forward with plans like remote ID, compulsory registration, licensing, a compulsory UTM system. So they've been fishing around for years trying to come up with a survey that would deliver results to support their case for all these things. And they finally, and in the survey themselves, it was like they claimed a 1.4% margin of error in the survey. And then when they were queried about why they used the word restricted airspace when what they meant was controlled airspace, they said, oh, we're just trying to clarify things. Well, you can't make such massive mistakes or use the wrong terms and still claim a 1.4% margin of accuracy. It's totally rigged, but they've showed their cards. We knew this for ages. They were going to try and push their AirShare UTM, and they were going to try and get all this stuff in. And to their credit, CAA has resisted the registration thing. They've said, we see no value in registering recreational drones. There's no point in it. It hasn't done anything overseas. But the Ministry of Transport are demanding that this is going to be the next step. And so it's going to be very interesting when this old man faces up to not just CAA, but the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Business Development and the Minister and the Prime Minister, and holds them to account for their stupidity.
Fair enough. Can we get fish and ag in there? So I moved us all around because they did say that the StreamYard people said there's a new feature where you can move people around. So I might play for fun.
I'm a bit uncomfortable. I don't like heights.
Very good, very good. Look, we're definitely beginning to talk nonsense. Did anyone else see anything else?
Did we ever
Well,
stop
what-
talking nonsense?
No, true. That's true. Go on, Ian. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because this whole thing I was talking about, it backs off to this whole open source thing, because there's been a few articles this week on open source, Linux, and how drones, and it all backs off what I was talking about with that company. And, they're talking about how open source is the future and it's new. Yet we've had Ardra Pilot for how many years now, Louis? Which is properly open source. How many years is Ardra Pilot been?
Well,
You're muted.
yeah, it is. It's all. It was 2000 and 2007 was started to think
Yeah.
about RG Pilot.
You're muted, Louis. We can't. I like it like that. You're muted.
It was 2008, I think, the DIY site started, or 2007. Lou might remember better than me.
Yeah, I believe so. Around 2007, I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's something that people ask us so many times about history.
Yeah, it's funny because this article is,
May 2007.
this article is saying how it's all new.
I started
It's-
SGS News in 2008.
Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah.
right.
Yeah, I had one at university, and I remember it being pretty new, and that was 2008.
Yeah.
But it's funny, innit? This article's talking about open source and how it's the future of drones, and you're going, it's interesting. There's certainly being money spent by one or two companies on that side at the moment, and pushing an agenda around open source and their open source platform and this whole American thing. I just wonder where they intend for all of this to end up.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't want to be drawn on it. I'll start getting angry. I don't want to start getting angry. Or more disillusioned. Disillusioned, I suppose. Sadly, that's kind of the word of the day for me around a lot of things. People calling coppers for no good reason. People wanting me to sign NDAs and this sort of thing. It's just disillusioned. It's just like, well, come on, people, straighten up and fly right. Let's just do our stuff and be nice.
Ooh,
Sure.
There was something we should have mentioned. Someone at a famous American company being sued.
Oh,
Drone
precision.
related? Yes.
But hang on. It's Tuesday this week. They must be a maker of They bought into a company. Did we mention it last week? I thought that was last week.
Was that last?
Could have been. I don't know. They're in trouble again. And we did mention the jetpack, Mark, right at the top, because obviously that's the number one headline right now in the world. A precision Orca, just a feast of moving.
Apparently shady business practices, isn't it? Basically, so apparently. Allegedly.
Well, I think it's that sort of thing that, where now I've got to go to the website and actually read what's said before I say something that might put myself into trouble even more than normal. There was some buying deal, wasn't it?
I just wasn't sure if that was mentioned, that's all.
Yeah, well, at least said soon as mended. Let's I'll shy away from that. But let's see. Is there any more for any more, gentlemen? It's getting late. And we've dragged Callum out here, who's done us proud. Thank you very, very much for joining us and explaining the drone delivery trials. But I'm so jealous of that trial and the whole idea of being there and flying there. What a wonderful, wonderful place to have to go and do those.
We'll have to get you up next time to write a news article off the back of it.
Something like some spurious reason or excuse to be up there. Yeah, what a wonderful place. And now the Isles of Scilly is the next place in the UK, and they're going to come and talk to us. That's another great one. Isle of Wight, not so much. Isles of Scilly and up there, yes, please. That's all good stuff. Are you involved in that Isles of Scilly one, Callum?
Nope, no,
not you. Nothing to do with us. And we've also seen. He comes, Mr. Dix 000, Pornhub name, comes in late and tells us what to do. We've done that ages ago, mate. Ages ago. That's exactly why. That's why Callum got tempted in here. Be safe whatever you're doing, Mark, out there in the wilds. I'm sure we're probably not allowed to know whatever it is because you're using your secret special name. And everyone else, take care. Dear viewer, wherever you might be in the world, wear a mask, wash your hands, be safe. And I look forward to seeing you again at 2100 GMT and maybe 12 GMT for cobbled together. It didn't work very well today. Roundup of the news. Look after yourselves, everyone, and take care. We'll see you next week. Cheers for now. Can't get the mouse over to go end broadcast.